Hi everybody, I'm Hero. When we last talked about reactions and reminders while watching the anime Rent a Girlfriend, I discussed how the relationship between Kazuya and Mami paralleled my own situation when I happened to fall for a girl that had put me down and essentially been the biggest bully to me. Sounds crazy, right? If you haven't seen it, go ahead and click to the side info icon where you can watch the video.
Times like that, I have definitely felt hopeless. I still got back up, potentially years and months later, and the first date that I would say was officially I asked, the girl says yes. Man, we'll call her Mickey. I was feeling particularly confident in myself. I remember the whole day was when I was 16. I hadn't gotten my license yet because I remember it was I changed her name. It was Mickey's birthday the month before in December. It was a bit of me mustering up all of my courage in order to ask her out to see if she would want to go on a date. I was kind of sitting on top of the world because I think I asked her with a kind of stupid school gram thing. I gave her my address because she was able to drive and I wasn't able to drive at that time, and I had brought flowers, and it seemed like the whole school happened to hear about, because she was rather popular. She was part of the student body, and she also happened to catch my eyes back in freshman year. But it took me that long to finally ask her out, but I finally did, and I was so happy. It was one of those things where I was so out of her league, and she was super popular with all the different crowds. Everyone knew Mickey, and I asked her out. My friends were all in my corner rooting for me, and it just felt great. It felt really great to finally, confess and say hey, I'm gonna do something that I say I'm gonna do. A lot of people were kept patting me on the back. A lot of people were coming out of the woodwork. They're yeah, man, that's awesome. You finally got to ask out the girl that you've been eyeing for a long time. And she was always a really sweet person, but there was always two levels of separation where I couldn't break past to really get to know her behind closed doors and get to know her outside of the school environment, where she's always kind of the public figure of the student body and representative of the whole class and everything like that. You can't help sometimes when you just happen to have that image of the girl or the guy, and they're just so much beyond your reach. But when you think about it, everyone's really on the same kind of playing field. And it wasn't until I got to spend time with her did I realize that I don't think that it was real. There was a certain level that it just wouldn't get past, and this is kind of why I feel this scene was particularly impactful to me, because it made me reflect on the barrier of her particular professionalism, because she was always trying to save face for being someone of her status and going out on a date with some chump kid like me. And not to put myself down or be self-deprecating, we're coming from two different worlds, and it sounds super dumb and super cliche of it was more different sides of the desert, but still valid. Even though I was sitting across the way from her having some pasta, and me paying cash with everything because I didn't have credit cards, or I scraped up a lot of my birthday and Chinese New Year money to kind of come up with this date. I paid for the two of us $65 for the whole dinner, and it was almost like Aladdin. It was like Aladdin, where I was some kind of street rat, nobody kid, trying to go out with. She was actually homecoming queen. I could say that I went out on my first date with a homecoming queen. It's that's one song. Having the support of your friends when you muster up enough courage, that was one thing that I felt was a good milestone for me to have a little bit more faith in myself and have a little bit more self-confidence. I happen to think when things are going good with, the girl that I'm into, it's where she's trying to take care of me, I don't know if it's weird, or I don't know if it's counting my eggs before they hatch, or counting my chickens before they hatch, but I can't help but feel like, what would the future be like with having them by my side and introducing them to your parents, these little adventures to kind of get to know each other more, know where each other grew up and where important milestones, and getting to explore who we are as individuals and what makes us each respective person and what makes us unique. I get caught up in that image of things, and it makes me happy, but at the same time, I think about it now, you can't. It sets you up for failure. You become a little bit more invested than the other person, and it never really ends well when it's not equal. With How I Met Your Mother, there's always the reacher and the settler. There's the person that is trying to reach out higher to a person that's a little bit more out of their reach, out of their league, someone who kind of a little bit more above them. And I hate to say that, because I feel like everyone has their pros and cons. People shouldn't be ranking each other in that kind of manner. You're just so infatuated and you're so head over heels for this other person that you just can't help but see the good in them, and then you treat them a little bit better. But not to say that it's necessarily wrong. Love can be blind, you know. It eventually didn't pan out. Spoiler alert, I'm still single.
It's important to cherish the preferred characteristics that make people admirable, but what has changed in me is the recognition that I have worth in the eyes of others conversely. In what ways would elevate you to have your own pedestal? Feel free to comment a bit of positive self-images, because this community is among the best, and we'd like to throw a little bit of that support right back to you. And you can join by subscribing to the channel. You can also check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch, where I am there live. I'm the Abandoned Hero. Make sure to explore your true potential and be the hero of your own story.